The Epstein stuff is so crazy because when Kash Patel was on here and he was like, there's nothing. And I was like, what are you talking?
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to say. My thought was, and people are like, why didn't you push back more? And then he didn't know about the Michael Baden stuff, the autopsy stuff, where it showed that he had 3 broken bones in his neck, which never happens when you hang yourself. My thought was like, I'm just going to put this out there and let the internet do its work because there's nothing I can. The guy's saying there's no tapes, there's no video. That doesn't make any sense. Everyone knows it doesn't make any sense.
They say Melania was on Epstein's jet. They say she got a visa reserved for Nobel Prize winners. They say Trump hid a client list just for her. But here's what they won't tell you. Almost none of these lines hold up when you actually look for proof. Today I'm cutting through the noise. It's half political drama, half tabloid comedy show, and you need to see the script. Before we move on, I will like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. It's strange to think one of the loudest Melania Epstein rumors might have started with nothing more than a throwaway line. No press conference, no sworn statement, no evidence. Just an alleged comment, supposedly from Epstein himself, saying she was on my jet. That's it. That's the whole seed. Michael Wolff claimed Epstein had boasted about it, but he couldn't show proof or give any context for when or why it was said. It could have meant anything or nothing, but the internet treated it like it was the Zapruder film of political gossip. Within hours of Wolff's claim floating around, online gossip blogs snapped it up and slapped it into clickbait headlines.
Even when you like leap from somewhere with a rope around your neck and it snaps your neck, you never have 3
and he's
broken
in a prison
bones.
cell. He's not launching himself off the first floor balcony. He's down there to interview
her. But I'm saying
right.
she's sex trafficked to
who? She was a co-conspirator of Epstein's, right?
But don't you have to have a person who you're sex trafficking? Like, do you think we're babies? Like, what is this?
Also, you got people, including Dan Bongino, right, making bank for a couple of years talking about how awful it is, and we got to get this shit, and this is a huge conspiracy. And
Melania flew with Epstein, with all the confidence of a front-page crime report. No one paused to say, hang on, that's just hearsay. Then again, hang on doesn't get you traffic. From there, Twitter did what Twitter does best. Turn 3 words into a global scandal. Screen grabs of flight logs magically appeared with big red circles, except they didn't actually show Melania's name. Comment threads filled with users announcing as fact that she was definitely there. The memes were relentless. Some had photoshopped images of Melania sitting on that plane looking bored, holding a glass of champagne, while Epstein peeked from the background. One meme had a fake Netflix title card for a non-existent documentary called First Lady Frequent Flyer. The captions didn't try to explain anything, they just leaned on the joke and let everyone's imagination fill in the blanks. And because it was funny and scandalous, it stuck. People started repeating it as if they'd seen actual boarding passes. Pretty soon, bloggers who'd built a reputation on conspiracy bait saw the wave and decided to ride it. They wrote explainers, piecing together old party photos, random tabloid blurbs, and Epstein's known flight history into a neat little theory. A theory that looked official enough for casual readers to skip right past the lack of real proof. By the time political commentators got to it, they were talking like the "on my jet" line was a confirmed historical fact. The chain was pure internet alchemy, blog posts to Twitter outrage, to cable debate shows, each layer polishing the rumor until viewers forgot it was based on gossip. This is where things went from messy to legally awkward. The Daily Beast ran an article that went beyond the vague rumor and actually built a larger piece around it, giving it credibility in the eyes of readers who treat news sites as gospel. They referenced Wolff, they repeated the jet comment like it was solid, and they added just enough surrounding details to make it sound like investigative journalism. That single article poured gasoline on an already burning fire, and suddenly the "on my jet" line was everywhere, despite never being proven. Then came the quiet part.
If the Epstein scandal teaches us anything, it's that America needs a dedicated and decently funded group of people whose job it is not to just ask questions, but to find answers. Just that alone is so wild that they would have the balls to post that. We need dedicated journalists, not just people asking questions. We're just asking questions along with that? Or is this a knock on the defunding of PBS, which is essentially a propaganda network for the Democratic Party?
Yeah, which is now being, apparently, we'll see if that happens, but
weeks later, the article vanished without fanfare. No big tweets announcing it, no dramatic correction box at the top, just gone. If you went looking for it, you'd hit a dead link. Turns out, after some behind-the-scenes lawyering, the Daily Beast folded. They retracted the piece and issued a statement admitting it had caused confusion, which is a polite way of saying, yeah, this wasn't the solid reporting we made it look like. The same outlet that had helped supercharge the rumor now backed away from it completely, even apologizing. But by then, the internet didn't care about the retraction. Few shared the apology, and fewer still updated their own posts with the new information. The picture of Melania as Epstein's jet passenger had already solidified in the minds of people who wanted to believe it. That's the thing, innuendo gets treated like evidence, and evidence gets ignored if it ruins a good story. So if the biggest viral hook in this whole saga deflates the second you ask for documentation,
they know they are sitting on a treasure trove of information and they're not turning it over. And I've worked on these cases for over 10 years now. There's a plethora of information that the public has not been able to see relating to Epstein.
He has over 100 hours of Epstein talking about Trump, including saying that he considered Trump his best friend for 10 years.
I probably have 100 hours of Epstein talking about the inner workings of the Trump White House and about his long-standing, deep relationship with Donald Trump.
Where does the smear machine go next? Turns out you just switch props. The next act ditches private jets and goes for something with an even snappier headline, a visa nicknamed after Einstein himself. Apparently, the only way you should get into America now is if you've split the atom, cured a disease, or won a Nobel Prize, unless you happen to be a model who married the orange turd. That's the way critics tell it when they bring up Melania's so-called Einstein visa. The nickname sounds like it's only for lab geniuses, but the actual category is called the EB1. And here's the part people skip. It's for people with extraordinary ability in any field, not just science. You can be an athlete, an actor, or yes, even a model, as long as you can prove you're in the very top tier of your profession. The law spells it out. If you've won a major award, or you can meet at least 3 out of 10 criteria like being featured in major publications, landing international recognition, or making original contributions of significance in your field, you can qualify. So in Melania's case, the field was fashion modeling, which is officially recognized. You don't have to like her, but the rules don't change based on whether you're wearing a lab coat or a ball gown. Critics hated that. They framed her EB1 like it was some VIP fast pass at Disney World, a shortcut only available because of who she married later. Never mind that this category has been used by Olympians, Grammy winners, and world-class chess players. Some commentary outright mocked the idea of extraordinary ability in modeling, pretending the only skill involved is walking in a straight line wearing expensive clothes. By skipping the legal details, people were free to paint it as shady without ever saying what rule had been broken, because none had. The hypocrisy is almost funny. The very same voices who defend the EB1 when it's given to a concert pianist or a soccer star suddenly decide it's corrupt when the recipient is Melania Trump. Why? Because politics makes people allergic to consistency. Imagine saying only quarterbacks deserve MVP awards, and then being outraged when a basketball player wins one. It's the same kind of selective outrage, recognizing extraordinary when you like the person, dismissing it when you don't. Of course, conspiracy promoters aren't interested in legal definitions, they're interested in clicks. So they take the EB1 fact and stitch it right back into the Epstein story. They claim the visa was part of some elite network arrangement, hinting that shadowy connections smoothed the path. No evidence, just the usual wink and nudge language, suggesting that because Epstein mixed with the rich and powerful, any rich and powerful person must be tied to him. It's lazy, but it works for an audience already primed by the "on my jet" rumor. Put it together and you get the Einstein visa outrage playbook. Pick something the public doesn't understand, give it a misleading name, imply it's a cheat code, ignore the actual criteria, and then sprinkle in familiar villains for extra spice.
Donald Trump himself acknowledged the fact that Epstein liked young women.
I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life.
There's nothing to implicate Donald Trump. Then release the files. What's the problem with releasing them? That's what they've been demanding.
And what Donald Trump called the younger side. Terrific guy. That's what Jeffrey Epstein was to Donald Trump. Terrific guy. And to this day, Donald Trump has not said a negative word about Jeffrey Epstein.
By the time someone explains the truth, people have moved on or decided the clarification is just PR spin. That's why this smear works. It feeds on gaps in knowledge. Most folks don't read immigration law in their spare time, so if a headline says Melania got a visa meant for geniuses, it sounds suspect without context. What's older than D-list celebrity gossip, taking the same stale rumor, reheating it, and serving it up like it's breaking news? That's exactly what happened with a little gem from 1997 dug out of the archives of the Sunday Mirror. The piece popped up just weeks after Donald had wrapped up divorce number 2, reporting he'd been seen with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, under the enchantment of a young woman of 20 years old. And nestled in the article was the line that the meeting was a business transaction, not a date. In the 90s, that was just tabloid chit-chat, vague enough to mean anything, spicy enough to sell papers. The business transaction bit was a throwaway phrase, the kind you'd expect from gossip scribes tossing out innuendo to make readers nudge each other over brunch. But today's smear merchants treat it like it's a confidential memo from the FBI. They've basically rewired it so it's not just about Trump meeting someone. It's supposedly about Melania being brought into his life through some orchestrated Epstein-Maxwell talent scout program. Never mind that the original report had none of that detail. History is optional when you're building a scandal. Slap Epstein's name onto any old rumor, and suddenly its resale value skyrockets. A dinner party sighting from 1997. Oh, add Epstein, and now it's a shocking secret reveal. That's the internet's version of flipping a house. The older and less confirmed the story is, the easier it is to reshape it, because there's no real evidence to trip over. Just a fuzzy outline you can color in however you want. And then we take a sudden left turn to...
According to Michael Wolff, when Ghislaine Maxwell was on trial, Trump grew, quote, very wary and began asking, quote, what could she say? What would she say? But he was so concerned, he even considered giving him a pardon. But people in his inner circle thought that would basically backfire on him, and so decided to do nothing, but were very concerned about somebody going about their normal life is not overly concerned about what somebody on trial for sex trafficking is going to say about them.
Russian television. Yes, apparently no smear mix is complete without adding some foreign propaganda seasoning. According to this tall tale, Melania was routinely shown stripping naked on Russian television to embarrass Trump. Because when you're trying to tank someone's image globally, why not go for shock value? Somewhere in a Moscow control room, producers figured flashing racy old modeling shots would be the ultimate burn. Honestly, if that's the level of strategy, maybe all foreign policy should run through bad reality TV. Spin a wheel, invasion, or Instagram photo dump. This idea even got airtime on 60 Minutes, the Kremlin-friendly version, not the one your grandparents watch on Sundays. Host Olga Skabieva upped the absurdity by calling Melania a Ukrainian agent. Apparently the evidence was she existed, and some of her old photos could be dusted off for comedy. They even sprinkled in fake images of her decked out in Ukrainian symbols, just to keep the theater going. And of course, none of this was presented as a gag within Russia. It was state-approved jabs meant to reduce her to a national punchline. Now, were any of these things actually proof of a shady Epstein network? Number the naked photo bits were part humor, part propaganda, designed to mock Trump in a cheap, memorable way. The 1997 business transaction line was just vague newspaper fluff. Even the visa gripes we talked about before have nothing to do with random Russian talk shows. But that's the trick. Pile together unrelated scraps until they feel like one smooth, sinister story. Once you braid them together, an old tabloid blurb, an immigration category most people don't understand, and some trash TV from halfway across the world, you've got something that looks cohesive. And that's the danger, because when people hear 3 separate things in one sitting, they remember the combination, not the fact that each piece fell apart on its own. The absurdity actually works as a weapon. The wilder the claim, the stickier it is in your brain. You might laugh, you might scoff, but later you remember something about Melania being on Epstein's plane, getting a genius visa, and then being mocked on Russian TV. By then, what was said and what was real have blurred beyond recognition. So at this point, the threads are laid out in plain sight. We've got the gossip, the legal misdirection, and the propaganda stunts. Now comes the question, what's the real takeaway when you see how neatly the smear script was written? This whole circus was never about hard evidence. It was about tossing out half-true lines, repeating them until they felt real, and framing them just right so people stopped asking questions. That's how you turn gossip into gospel. Next time you see some over-the-top headline, ask yourself two things. Where's the proof, and who cashes in if I believe it? If those answers aren't solid, maybe don't share it. Because trust me, there's always another smear campaign warming up in the wings, and spotting it before it takes off is the only way to stop becoming its unpaid hype team.